Hello and welcome back to the channel. So what's caught my eye in the classifieds today? Well, I think there's no secret that I'm a big fan of minis, but I'm also a big fan of Range Rovers. And that's what we've got today. But it's not just any old Range Rover. This has got quite a history behind it. So let's go straight in and hopefully you'll enjoy it. There you are. It's a classic Range Rover, four-door. Now, you've heard me say before, in the late 70s, um, the epitome of the top coach builder was wooden picket. Well, Overfinch to me are synonymous with Range Rovers. And although they may not have done the coach building like wooden picket did, what they brought to the table was performance car features. And they basically took your standard Range Rover and could make it act like a performance car. Arthur Silverton formed the Overfinch company back in 1975, but at that point it was called Schuller or Schuller Presses, and it wouldn't become Overfinch until 1985. Now, this isn't just another Overfinch Range Rover, though, and that's what makes this a bit more interesting. This is the very first Overfinch Range Rover, and it was the prototype and development car. And it's got quite a history, as I say, which we'll go on to later on. But this vehicle is said to be the first to wear the Overfinch name. Right, so time to take a look around and point out a few bits of interest. Now, if you look at the normal classic Range Rover, and you were to see an Overfinch Range Rover, there's one way basically to tell the difference between the two, and that is this grille here. They have one on both sides, and you can see there's the second grille on the other side, as we say. Another feature that we see is that you've got the external door hinges and the external bonnet hinge as well. They were later concealed with modifications in 1987. Gone by this time are the quarter windows, which is correct. They were disappeared about 84 or 85, I think it was. Looking at the front end of this vehicle, it looks like a normal Range Rover. However, I would say that this vehicle has had some upgrades over the years, which you can expect. For instance, if we take a look at the front end here, you'll see that it's got the horizontal plastic slatted grille, which replaced the vertical slatted metal grille. But the grille wasn't introduced until 1987. Another interesting feature is that it's also got the power washers on the headlights, which I don't believe it would have had at that point. And the other thing that's worthy of note is that it's also got the addition of the lower spoiler and the fog lights, which again I don't believe would have been appropriate at that age range. It was just slightly later that that was introduced. The vehicle's sitting on what looked to be LSC Range Rover wheels, LSC being the long wheelbase version, and they weren't introduced until 1992. Some interesting graphics, Overfinch badges and stripes, and it makes quite clearly on the back what model it is, a 570 Sport. The 570 Sport was said to develop 285 brake horsepower. You'll see the sticker there. That's the Goodwood Road and Racing Club sticker. I think that looks quite nice in white. You get very few Range Rover classics in white. And I think they can look quite quite smart actually, when you see a nice one. And the thing that we note here, of course, is at this point, correctly, it had the recessed fuel filler down here. Slightly later, it gained a fuel filler flap over there. And shortly after that, the fuel filler actually moved further up the wing in this sort of area here. Now, that looks quite smart, actually. That interior looks quite tidy. And I like the wood steering wheel. Apparently, the Overfinch steering wheel does come with the car, but it's not fitted. But I like that wheel. I think that looks quite smart. Very nice. And that's an interesting feature as well. A driving control system. That's not something that was usually fitted to a Range Rover, so I'm assuming that this has been an addition. Whether it was an Overfinch edition, I'm assuming, but I've never come across that one before. And there's some interesting instruments there. There it is. It's got a 5.7 litre Corvette engine under the bonnet. And there's the very vehicle featured in a road test or a magazine or something. And you'll see the number plate here is 64 SPL. As I said, this was a prototype development vehicle. And we'll go on to that and a little bit more information about that later. There we go, some more information. Let's go and have a look at what the description actually tells us. So it's for sale with Barn Find Classics. And I think this is a car which deserves to be saved because it's an interesting car and it's got a history to it. And cars are a bit like people, I think. You can find somebody who's a perfectly nice person, you can have a conversation with them, but they can be a bit boring and you can't wait to get away from them. Very nice, but and then you meet the totally anonymous person who, once you get talking to them, you find out they've had such an interesting life and they've done all sorts. And you just want to know more. And to me, that's what this car is. It's very special and it deserves to be saved. If you've got the skills to be able to put it right and get it working, I think that's the car for you. And I think personally, I think that's a good price. And there may be a few people out there questioning that, but I think that's a good price for a special car like this. So it tells us that it's the first Overfinch ever, of course. It's an automatic 6-speed. Now that's interesting, isn't it? Well, I think it is anyway. Let's get the full description up. Let's do it justice. Right, let's have a quick look at the description. So we know it's an 86 Overfinch 570S. It's got the 5.7 litre Corvette engine, and it was the first vehicle to wear the Overfinch name. And we've already said it was the development car prototype. Apparently, Arthur Silverton pioneered the concept of the performance 4x4 way before Land Rover realised the potential and produced this performance Range Rover. It was originally registered 64 SPL, as we saw in the magazine articles there, and it was his personal development vehicle, and it played a part in every Overfinch Range Rover model subsequently built. The test car heavily used in the publicity and featured in the motoring magazine tests of the period, which we also saw in the advert there. Apparently, it's got a huge history file, lots of road test articles, old MOTs, and it's got a full DVLA history trace. For anybody outside the UK, DVLA is the government department of the Driver Vehicle Licensing Agency. Basically, they register your cars for you. And this has details of presumably who's owned it in the past. Unfortunately, now that's all been ruined down to GDPR crap. And so you just can't get the histories of vehicles anymore from DVLA, which is a shame because it's interesting to know its previous ownerships. I just think it adds to the history of a car. That's my personal opinion, anyway, for what it's worth. And to me, it's worth a fortune. So, what else does it tell us? So, it formed a part of a large, interesting Land Rover collection had done for the past decade, but it's been unused during this time. So, it's been sold as a recommissioning restoration project. They've had it running apparently with a slave fuel supply. The fuel pump's faulty, but they've got one on order, which is going to be supplied with the car. And they say the engine sounds great. And when it was before it was parked up, it was in daily use. As I've said, this car is a car that is worthy of saving. It's such an important vehicle, in my opinion. And if you've got the skills to do it, then it's a no-brainer. It could be made roadworthy very easily, in their opinion. The chassis sound, there's no welding needed. Benefit from a clean-up. Floors, inner and outer sills are also good. Looks like it's never had any previous welding carried out. 3 of the doors have some corrosion to the steel inner door frame, but should repair fairly easy, they tell us, without replacement. The outer skins are very good. Conversion cost £20,000 back in '86, and it doubled the price of a new Range Rover at £40,000. But of course, as we know, you got more than just a standard Range Rover because you got uprated gearbox, brakes, suspension, exhaust, cooling system, and the steering were all heavily uprated. And this 570S Sport conversion, apparently it was the ultimate and the most expensive conversion available. They had a 570T model, but the S version had the addition of alloy cylinder heads ported and a higher compression ratio. And it says a genuine and very important piece of Land Rover and Overfinch history, without a doubt. So yes, I think that's a very interesting car, and I think it's well priced personally. I mean, okay, nobody ever wants to pay the full price, but with something like this, I think that's worth every penny personally. It looks a very tidy car to me, and I think it seems a bit of a bargain. And if you get that up and running properly, then it's worth far more than the price that's shown there. Right, so once again, I'm going to say thanks for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please, if you've got any comments that you want to add, then please do so. I'd be interested to hear what you have to say about it. And thanks again for joining me. And until next time, take care.